Hi, and welcome back to Studio Tamera, the mystical paintress. Today is a gorgeous, sunny, balmy, warm day here in Michigan. The end of June, we've had about a week of rain, so it's beautiful to see the sun. I'm doing something new and exciting. You got to hear about this. So a lot of the studies I'm painting in my videos, I am now listing in my Etsy shop. So if you go to Studio Tamera, T-A-M-E-R-A on Etsy, a lot of these little studies will be up there for sale, and I'm listing them pretty reasonable because I have a lot of people that were asking if they're for sale. So today we are out in the garden and we are going to do the Queen Anne's lace, also known as wild carrot, not to be mistaken with poison hemlock. So there are lots of copycats in wetland areas of the wild carrot or the Queen Anne lace. You really need to know the difference because some of them are deadly. Poison hemlock is the most toxic plant in North America, I believe. So anyway, we're gonna learn about them. Let's do it. So this is my garden. You're gonna hear a lot of birds and you might see my dog and you're gonna hear the fountain. This is wild carrot, also known as Queen Anne's lace. Usually it has a black or red dot in the center, which the lore says Queen Anne was sewing lace and she pricked her finger. You know this is wild carrot because the stem is green and it's fuzzy. It has little fuzzies on it. So also it's lacy underneath and it's an umbrella-shaped flower. It only gets about 3-4 feet tall. If it's 17 feet tall, that's a hogweed. It's extremely dangerous to even smell or touch. And not nightshade, the poison hemlock can get about 10 feet tall. So this is just the most elegant, lovely flower. One more thing about the difference. The Queen Anne lace, as I mentioned, has a green stem. Poison hemlock has purple blotches all the way down the stem and no hairs. In historical lore, it was said that the wild carrot was used as an aphrodisiac, and yet other sources say it was used as an anti-fertility, and they used the seeds as an abortive property or a morning after type pill. Such a beautiful plant. So I'm already starting out with a big no-no. Whoa, and I dropped my paintbrush. The big no-no is my board here, as you can see, it's white. I didn't put any color on it to tone it so the sun wouldn't reflect my eyes. The other thing here is I don't have my shade buddies, so we have direct light on the board. Usually you don't want that, but I've been doing this for about 15 years outdoors, and I'm hoping the overcast sky comes through. If not, I'm going to be painting this very fast in under a half hour anyway. So let's begin. I'm going to dip my brush in the turp and I'm going to mix some colors here with some browns and blues just to get a dark kind of background. Put a little gray in and I'm going to do a little underpainting. So I'm going to dilute the brush. And I actually think I want to do a vertical. So I'm going to negative paint this, meaning I'm going to paint everything I see around it. Boy, those little wrens are not happy we're here, guys. They are chattering away over there. They're feeding their babies. So this is tricky because you got to be kind of feather light with your brush. Just roll it around. Unlike doing a face, if you screw this up, nobody is going to know exactly what this flower looked like. So plein air painting is not as scary as you may think. If you screw up a tree, you know, it's not like painting your Aunt Judy. for Christmas and having everybody say, oh my God, what is that? It looks like a frog. I did that, by the way. 15 years ago or so, I painted my grandparents. No, 30 years ago, freehand, and I was using pastels. Oh, it wasn't good. I needed lots of practice with portraits. Okay, so this is my basic outside of my flower. Has a stem that comes down in here. So I'm just suggesting it, right? That's all I'm doing. Oh, look at that little wren going crazy over there. So if I am correct, I believe this is in the parsley family. Oh, and there goes the kitty and the doggy on a garden walk. Meanwhile, the sun comes, then the sun goes. Then the sun comes, then the sun goes. But we're making progress. I'm being dive bombed by hummingbirds, various other birds. Dive bombed by hummingbirds and various other birds. So if I mysteriously disappear, please alert the authorities that I have been bird napped. Isn't this fun? Okay, so this view, you can see the flower, the painting, and the palette, hopefully, even though we have a little shade on it because the sun's to my back. So I mixed some blue and some green, sap green, and a little burnt sienna, just to kind of make a broken, darker kind of color. And I'm just gonna touch, like, you know, we want to create the illusion of a stalk, but we don't want a line right there. Use a little terp to thin it down. So here's our leaf. Remember, think parsley family. Very lacy and light. And we've got one coming down. It's hard. You have to think almost sometimes like a sculptor instead of a painter, because it's not about lines. It's about values and shapes and darks and lights and all that good stuff. So if you're a beginner, this is a nice little impressionistic abstract style painting that we're doing. So see how I'm just suggesting, I'm just putting in, there's a little thing here. We actually have a little spiky guy. It's like an unopened one. Not sure if I want to put it in yet, but if I do, it'll be like in here. And it's got wispy things coming out. So just take some broken color, get down there, get a little ochre, put a little yellow ochre in there, just to give it a little different color. I know when you use yellow ochres, your paintings tend to look like late summer. They look more tired. When you use more of like cad yellow light, you've got more of that springy lighter color, that fresh green in spring. We kind of want both for this, I think. So I got this little book thing and put it here so that when I do these mini paintings, they don't fall off and I don't have to hold them the whole time. So you can see. Thank you for all the lovely comments. A few people have said try not to shake the camera so much, so that's part of the reason I did this here. Got this little board. Okay. So now I want a couple darks, real dark. I'm just using ultramarine blue. The reason I want these is just to give it a little depth, a little artistic flair there. So put the kitty in the house so these poor birds could feed their babies. We'll be doing a paint out here at my house July 10th with the Michigan Plein Air Painters. If you're in the area and you want to come and paint with us, it's a very fun place to paint. Lots going on. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the reference. And what I see is a really lime green stem. So I'm going to take cad yellow light and white and a little bit of sap green and mix them into this real light lime colored green. You guys see that? So it's a really light lime colored green because the stem has very light, and then I'm going to hold the brush very lightly, like I'm almost dropping it, and just touch it very lightly. Like that. Also, I see when I look at this little guy, and if it looks too much like, oh, that looks like a string of yarn, then you can just, boy, those birds are letting the dog know they don't want him out here. Brad Doberman. He likes to stand next to me when I paint. So now just play with different greens. Look at the reference. You know, and if you see a little bit of a lacy, curly, fun, happy leaf, oh, put it in. There's no rules. This is your painting. I have loved this plant since I was a kid. I couldn't tell you why. Part of it might be the lovely story, you know, about Queen Anne picking her finger. So I want to get some of these very light suggested lacy things. You do not want to overdo this. So you're going to really water your brush down. And just suggest it. Just look at the reference. Suggest it. It's okay, little wren. I'm not going to let them hurt your babies. Little wrens are my buddies. All right, I'm going to go back. See, so oil painting is kind of like sculpting. So you're going in and out, in and out, in and out. We're going to be taking a little bit of our lighter and our ochres. And we got to do a few corrections. There will be no really hard edges. So try to keep it very soft, very light. Here, my dog is crying. The umbrella flower. This is the only one that's safe for you, by the way. This has a really fantastic, unique reach up here that I want to try and mimic. So I'm gonna do that too. So it's like sculpting, you know, you put a little bit here, look at your reference. Put a little here, look at your reference. The butterflies are right here. So brown, add green, add blue. All right, so I'm going to go back up to the top. As you can see, I'm kind of saving the flower. I'm probably going to jump in and do that next. Just trying to... No idea why my dog's being such a crybaby today. Probably because he wants to go to the beach. So even these little buds up here have what I would call lacy, little lacy arms. And you know, when you paint something, you want to try and study it, just like you'd study a person. If you're going to paint a portrait of a person, you're not going to paint that portrait the same for every person. It's going to look different. Same way with flowers or anything else, really. Just take your time, enjoy it. Okay, and then the bottom here has some, it's kind of like this. This is tricky because I get the sun behind me. And these lovely little butterflies are all around. What a joy. I want to leave a little bit of the white. I don't want to paint the flowers in to the point where it looks like a paint by number. So let's look up close. When we look up close, we see the center of this is kind of pink. All right, so we're gonna get a, oh, sorry about that. We're gonna get a clean new brush, smaller one. These are my rosemary plein air brushes. And I'm gonna put a little Naples. Oh, we've got an angry green heron. So funny. Okay, little Naples. And I'm going to just touch a little pink and a little Naples. Any kind of pink, doesn't matter. Same with this one. If you're real lucky, you might even get a little bee or a butterfly to land on it while you're painting it. The magic of nature. That's my blue jay. Hi, baby. He's gonna come and get some peanuts from this feeder right next to me. He's just not used to this whole camera stand set up here, so he's a little dubious. Okay. So I'm getting a little bit brighter pink and I'm mixing it in with the Naples just because I see it. So I just want to touch in here a little. Just a little, very little. You can overdo this so quickly. Sometimes the best details are just so subtle. And then correcting all the time, looking. You know, if the stem looks a little bit too... mosquitoes biting my legs. Thunderstorm could roll in any minute, you know. All good. I really want this to be whimsical, light, happy. No, I don't want this heavy or dark in any way. So if you want something to look lighter, you have to put darker near it. So watch this, I'll show you guys a trick. I want these to stick out more. Just put a little dark behind them. See that? That wasn't black. You could put black. Here, let's put some, why not? People say, oh, we're afraid to use black, but I use black. Put a little dark in. There, now we're starting to get the feel of what's going on here. Okay, Kitty is back in the house. So now we are going to tackle the flower. Somehow I lost the paintbrush. Well, it'll turn up. They always do. So when I look at Queen Anne lace at the center, there's almost a little bit of this lime green, but I'm going to mix a little Naples in there too. That's way too green. Put a little ochre in here. Let's do some trial and error and see what works best with this. So we're going to just really light, put a little, I don't think I like that. I don't think that's right. I think I need it a little darker. And there's our green heron. This is tricky because you don't want to, it's not all one flower, but you don't want to separate it like a bunch of little polka dots and it won't look right either. So, okay. All right, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take some Naples, some white, and we're going to just kind of put in a little bit here and there. We need a fluctuation in colors. You can't just leave it all white. I mean, you could, it would look good at a far distance, but that's not really what they look like. So just dab the brush gently with a Naples white combo. And you'll start to get the effect. You'll pick up a little bit of the paint underneath, which is exactly what you want to do. You want to pick up a little bit of the paint beneath. Broken color, that's called. You want broken color. Even though your eyes tell you it's all white, it's not. You're supposed to paint what you see, but you still have to paint something that is, in the biology world, correct. So now I'm just barely touching it. It's hard, it's a balance. That's why I call these studies. You're studying the subject, and you're trying to duplicate and make, you know, something on a flat surface 3D. Now I keep adding a little white as I'm going out to the points, just because That's what I see. Something so magical about painting in your garden. My dog doesn't think so. He'd rather go on a walk. So the other thing when you're painting is you got to know when to stop. Hi, Ra. You can very quickly overpaint something, especially if it's a study. So you got to know when to stop. We're not there yet, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. Sometimes that's the difference in a good painter and a great painter. A great painter knows when to stop when it still looks artistic and free and fun. And a good painter will keep painting and correcting until they have mud, until they don't like it as much. And it's just something you learn. Goes with the practice. Okay, now I'm taking straight white. And I'm just going to hit a couple of these areas. Some of these little floral paintings from my garden are among my favorite in the studio, especially in the cold months. So when you study it, the beautiful thing about oil is you can always make corrections, too. Okay, and then we got a little bit of white. By the way, if you get some dark paint in your brush, don't forget to wipe it off. Hey, dog, you can't be leaning on me right now. Put a little white in your flower. Okay. So when I look at this, and then I look at my reference, which I do as much as I can, I see I need some more. These really wispy. Just barely touch it. See, way too much, way too much. You may want to use a palette knife too for this. Ra? No. And there are the bullfrogs. So I'm going to go in, get a little dark, pick up a little dark, add a little sap green, correct that mistake I just made. It's that easy. Isn't oil fabulous? I love it. Some lost and found edges here. A little broken color. Put a little green here. This is almost white, for this stuff. So there we go. Very lacy, and it turns different directions. So the sun catches it. Sometimes it'll be light, other times it might be very dark. It's very random. stems are broken because they're furry. Okay, I'm liking this a lot. Now all I need to do is go in a little bit here. And these guys have the littlest bit. My poor dog. He's going on a walk as soon as I'm done with this. They have the littlest bit of green. Viridian might be a little bit too much. I use sap green this time of year in the garden, and I use it with yellows and whites. And all right. Center of the Queen Anne lace has a black-red dot. Mine has not developed in my flower yet, but in order to know for sure that's what this is, I am going to put a little tiny dot. Now, that's too obvious, so we've got to go in and break that up. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to take a green brush. Just doing some finishing touches. I'm looking at it. I'm just using some broken greens that were on the palette. Kind of. Let the brush dance. Take a little bit lighter green. Fun technique, if you feel like you have too much paint ever, you can just take a little palette knife. Just kind of scratch it off. Sometimes that also helps to blend your colors. Make things a little, again, more real. So when you squint and look at it, it's very soft and lacy. Now I'm just refining, putting a couple dark contrast strokes here and there, just to bring it to life a little more. There it is. Like my teaching style, I also wrote a book on plein air painting called Plein Air Painting, Tips and Tales, Memoirs of a Michigan Plein Air Painter. It's on sale now on Amazon. Uh-oh. Painting fell. Another tribulation, plein air painting. Oh. Playing with the painting. Have fun in life. Just one more thing. Every time I do a painting, I put a dot of paint on my dress. So I recommend go to a thrift store, get a junky old dress. Doesn't have to be a sundress. Every time you go plein air painting and you wear it, put a glob of paint on it. It's just fun. Here we are, all done. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video today. I hope your painting looked excellent. Put it in the comments below. Thank you to all my subscribers and my Patreon supporters. It's about 90 degrees. It's time to go float. Have a great day. Bye.